Have you ever wake up and realize something's wrong? Not because of what you remember, but because of what you don't? That was me the morning after December 14th. My name's Caleb Foster, and I live in Ravens Hollow, Alaska, a tiny fishing town on the edge of the Bering Sea, where the nights stretch longer than the days, and the cold can make you question your own heartbeat. Out here, it's quiet, too quiet sometimes. Folks say that's why people start seeing things, loneliness playing tricks on your brain. But what happened to me? It wasn't a trick. I've been running supply boats up and down the coast for about 6 years now. Nothing glamorous, just crates of gas, tools, food, and the occasional drunk fisherman I have to ferry back home. The pay's steady, and I like the solitude. My closest friend, Eli, works at the harbor's weather station, keeping track of incoming storms and giving me grief for working on the world's edge. He's the kind of guy who thinks everything can be explained. Wind patterns, temperature shifts, magnetic anomalies, you name it. Me? I've seen enough out on the water to know some things don't have explanations. That night, Eli and I had been at the Ice House, a run-down bar that somehow stays warmer than any home in town. We were a few beers in when the power flickered. No big deal. It happens here all the time when the snow loads up the lines. But this time, the lights didn't come right back. The entire town went pitch black. Only the emergency signs glowed faintly, red like open wounds in the dark. "Storm coming," Eli said, glancing toward the windows. But there was no wind, no sound, just stillness. Outside, the sky had gone a deep shade of violet, the kind you only see right before a blizzard. I remember stepping out into the cold, my breath freezing mid-air, and looking toward the shoreline. And that's when I saw it. 3 perfect white lights hovering above the frozen inlet. At first, I thought it was a Coast Guard helicopter, but there was no movement, no sound, just that eerie, pulsing glow. The lights were too precise, too symmetrical. They shifted once, slowly, like a triangle rotating in the sky, and then they stopped dead. Eli joined me outside, squinting into the darkness. "Must be some kind of drone," he muttered. But I knew better. The lights grew brighter, reflecting off the snow like tiny suns. The air felt charged, heavy, almost buzzing against my skin. My ears started ringing, and for a second, it was like everything around me, sound, color, even gravity, just folded in on itself. I felt dizzy, then weightless. The last thing I remember was Eli shouting my name. When I woke up, the world had changed. I was lying on my living room floor, my clothes still damp from the snow. The sun was up, or what passed for sun in Ravens Hollow, and the clock on the wall read 11:32 a.m. My phone said it was December 15th. I had no memory of how I got home, no memory of the drive, the storm, or even leaving the bar. My boots were clean, too clean, and the floor near the door was dry. I figured I'd had too much to drink, maybe blacked out. But that didn't explain the ringing in my ears and the ache in my joints, like I'd been tensed for hours. Then I saw it. A thin, almost perfect burn mark running along my left arm. 3 small dots in a triangle pattern. I pressed my fingers against it, and the skin tingled like static. I called Eli, but he didn't pick up. So I threw on my jacket and drove to the weather station. His truck was parked out front, engine cold. The front door was locked and windows frosted over.
When I finally got inside, the first thing I noticed was his laptop still open, showing the radar feed. The timestamp froze at 2:13 a.m., right about when those lights had been over the inlet. There was a sudden interference spike, like static noise on screen, and then nothing. The feed just cut out. Eli wasn't there. I called the sheriff, but he brushed it off, said Eli probably headed out early for a field check. But I knew him. Eli didn't go anywhere without logging it in the station book. The last entry in his handwriting was from 9:40 p.m. the night before. Unusual atmospheric activity west of inlet, investigating tomorrow morning. That was the last time anyone heard from him. The search lasted 2 weeks. Snowmobiles, rescue drones, the Coast Guard. All they found was his jacket, half buried near the tree line, zipper burned clean through like someone had cut it with a laser. The official report said hypothermia. I didn't argue, but deep down, I knew. It's been 3 months now. Every night, around 2 a.m., the lights come back. Faint at first, flickering over the treetops, then brighter, like they're testing the air. My radio goes dead, my power flickers, and my dog hides under the table whining. I've stopped sleeping in my bedroom. I stay in the living room with the curtains drawn and the shotgun across my lap, though I don't know what good that'll do. A few nights ago, I lost time again. I was sitting by the window, watching the snow fall, and I remember the hum starting, low, like the deep vibration of a distant generator. My body went cold. Next thing I knew, it was dawn, and my coffee was frozen solid in the mug. Another 6 hours gone. This morning, I found something outside. Small footprints in the snow, about half the size of mine, leading from the woods straight to my front porch. They didn't curve back, just ended right at the steps, and the snow wasn't melted where they were. It was fused like glass. I haven't told anyone. Not the sheriff, not the Coast Guard, not even Eli's family. Who would believe it? But I keep thinking about that night, how the air hummed, how the world went still. There's something about the silence before it happens that's worse than the lights themselves. Like the whole planet is holding its breath. Last night, I checked the radar feed Eli left behind, running it through the system again. The data spike was still there, 3 perfect pulses, equally spaced, showing movement from west to east. Then the signal cuts, replaced by a sharp burst of static that, when slowed down, almost sounds like words. I played it over and over until I could make out 2 syllables. Come back. It's snowing again tonight. The wind's picking up, and I can feel the pressure shift, the same heaviness I felt before. I packed a bag, not because I'm leaving, but because I know they'll come again. Maybe they already have, and I just don't remember. The clock says 1:47 a.m. now, 15 minutes. The dog's whimpering again. I can hear that low hum just under the wind, getting louder, closer. If anyone ever finds this recording, if anyone ever wonders what happened to Caleb Foster from Raven's Hollow, check the sky. Because whatever is up there doesn't just watch us. It comes back for what it left behind.
People around here don't talk much about what's in the sky. They'll tell you about moose sightings, blizzards that swallow roads whole, even the occasional bear wandering through Main Street. But ask them about the lights, the ones that move against the wind, and you'll get silence, maybe a stare that lingers too long. I used to think it was small-town superstition, something to keep bored folks entertained during the endless nights. That was before October 12th. the night I stopped sleeping with the lights off. My name's Luke Harris, and I've lived in Coldwater, Alberta my whole life. It's a speck of a town buried in the foothills, the kind of place where everyone drives a pickup and the northern lights are our nightly entertainment. I work maintenance at a sawmill just outside of town. Good pay, lousy hours, and not much else to do afterward except grab a beer at Eddie's Tavern and listen to locals complain about the government, the weather, or both. That night I was closing up the mill when the power cut out. Everything went black. The generators, the floodlights, even the backup systems. Dead silent. I thought it was a grid issue until I noticed something strange. The air outside was glowing faintly blue, like light filtered through ice. I grabbed my flashlight and stepped out onto the lot. The glow wasn't coming from the mill. It was coming from above. At first I figured it was the aurora. Happens all the time here. But this wasn't that soft, dancing green light you get with an aurora. This was sharp, controlled. It pulsed in steady beats, like the flash of a camera shutter, and it was low, too low. I could hear a faint hum under it, deep and mechanical, but it didn't sound like any engine I'd ever heard. "Luke, that you out there?" It was Tommy, one of the night guys. He came around the corner, cigarette glowing between his fingers, looking half drunk and half frozen. I pointed up, but by the time he looked, the light was gone. Just black sky and the sound of wind in the trees. We brushed it off as a weird weather trick and went home. But I couldn't shake it. Something about that hum had burrowed into my head. 2 nights later, it happened again. I was driving home from the diner around midnight, the road empty except for the fog rolling off the river. Halfway down Pine Hollow Road, my radio started cutting out. Static, then silence. I hit the dial thinking I'd lost the signal, but then the engine sputtered and died. The headlights flickered once and went black. Now, I've worked on enough engines to know when something's mechanical and when it's not. This was not. The air outside shimmered faintly, and there it was again, that same hum, low and deep, vibrating through the steering wheel. I looked up and saw it, a massive black shape blotting out the stars, no wings, no rotors, no sound except that pulsing frequency that made my teeth ache. Lights lined the bottom of it, shifting from blue to white to red in perfect rhythm. I should have run. Should have done anything but sit there like an idiot. But my body wouldn't move. I was frozen, breath fogging up the windshield as that thing passed directly overhead. Then, without warning, everything went silent again. The hum stopped, the lights vanished, and my headlights snapped back on. The truck roared to life like nothing had happened. I drove straight home, shaking so bad I nearly missed the turnoff. When I got there, I poured half a bottle of whiskey just to calm my nerves. I told myself it was exhaustion, overwork, stress. That's what you tell yourself when reality doesn't make sense. But the next morning, I found something that made me stop pretending. On the hood of my truck were 3 perfect circles, small, faintly burned into the paint. I touched one, and the metal was still warm. I didn't tell anyone. Not at first. Who'd believe me? Hey guys, aliens branded my Chevy. No thanks. But a week later, I wasn't the only one seeing things. Tommy disappeared. He'd been closing up the mill same as usual. Cameras caught him walking across the yard around 11:40 p.m., heading toward his truck. Then the feed glitched, static for exactly 6 minutes. When the image came back, his truck was still there. Engine running, door wide open. No Tommy. The RCMP searched for days, found his cigarette pack near the tree line, nothing else. The whole town was rattled, but no one said it out loud, not the word that sat on everyone's tongue. I started noticing more. Patterns. The power outages always hit the same area near Pine Hollow. People reported hearing pressure in the air, dogs barking uncontrollably, headlights flickering. The official word? Solar interference. Sure, because solar flares love small Canadian towns in October. By the end of the month, I wasn't sleeping much. Every night I'd hear that faint hum again, sometimes far off, sometimes right above the roof. I'd step outside and stare into the sky until my eyes burned, always expecting to see the lights again, always terrified that I would. Then came the night of October 29th. I remember it too clearly. I was fixing a generator out back when the world just stopped. No wind, no sound, no movement. Even the snowflakes in the air seemed to hang there, suspended. And then the light came, bright, white, and blinding. It wasn't above me this time. It was around me. The hum grew so loud I could feel it in my bones. My hands went numb. The wrench dropped from my grip, clattering against the frozen ground in slow motion. My vision blurred, and I swear I could see shapes inside the light. Tall, thin figures that seemed to move without walking, without sound. Something touched my shoulder, cold, sharp, and then everything went black. When I woke up, I was lying in the snow, staring at a sky full of stars. My watch said 3:23 a.m., 3 hours gone. My generator was running perfectly, though I hadn't finished repairing it. And on the ground beside me was my wrench, bent clean in half like it was made of clay. I didn't report it. What would I even say? Hey guys, aliens fixed my generator? No thanks. I went home, took a shower, and sat by the window till dawn, half expecting the light to come back. It didn't. 2 days later, the search for Tommy was called off. The RCMP blamed the terrain, said the forest probably took him. But I know better. I saw the sky that night, the same one that swallowed him whole. Now every time I drive past Pine Hollow, my headlights dim for a second, just long enough for me to see movement in the trees, just long enough to hear that low, bone-deep hum. I've thought about leaving Coldwater, packing up and heading south where the nights aren't so long, but something tells me it wouldn't matter. You can't outrun the sky, not when it already knows your name. Sometimes I catch myself staring at the stars longer than I should. They look different now, brighter, closer, like they're waiting for something. And when the wind dies, when everything goes quiet, I swear I can still hear it, faint and steady. That same hum, the same one that started the night Tommy disappeared, the same one that took me for 3 hours, I'll never get back. Whatever they are, whatever they're doing here, they're not done. They never are.
I grew up in Ashford, Minnesota, a small lake town about 2 hours north of Duluth. You've probably never heard of it. Most people haven't. We've got 1 gas station, 2 diners, and enough mosquitoes in the summer to carry you clean off the dock. But we also have Lake Minerva, a deep, still body of water surrounded by pine forest and fog that doesn't burn off until mid-morning. Folks say it's haunted, but around here, everything's haunted if you drink enough coffee and listen long enough. I never believed any of that until the summer of 2019. My name's Aaron Walsh, and I work as a high school science teacher at Ashford Central. I've lived here my whole life, and nothing much changes. Same streets, same people, same rumors about the lights over the lake. Growing up, my dad used to tell me stories about them. Glowing orbs that skimmed the water's surface, silent and white as ghosts. He'd say it with a grin, but his eyes never matched his smile. When I was 12, he disappeared out there one night while fishing alone. They called it an accident. I stopped going near the lake after that. But life has a way of circling back to the things you try hardest to forget. That summer, my friend Casey Miller moved back to Ashford after 10 years in the Navy. He'd been stationed in Norfolk and had the kind of quiet edge that told you he'd seen too much. We used to fish together as kids, and when he showed up at my door one July evening with 2 beers and his old tackle box, I didn't have the heart to say no. "Come on, Walsh," he said with a grin. "For old time's sake, lake's not gonna bite." So we drove down to Minerva just before sunset, the truck rattling over gravel roads and the air thick with the smell of pine and rain. The lake looked the same, flat and dark, like a sheet of glass stretching into the trees. Mist hung low over the surface. The only sound was the buzz of crickets and the splash of a fish somewhere near the reeds. We cast our lines, made small talk, and let the silence fill the gaps. But as the sky dimmed, the air started to feel wrong. Not colder exactly, just heavy, charged like the air before a thunderstorm. My radio, sitting on the cooler, started hissing faintly with static, even though it was turned off. Casey noticed it too. "You feel that?" he asked. I nodded. Probably just the pressure dropping. Except it wasn't. Around 10 p.m., the first light appeared. It started as a faint glow on the far side of the lake, soft and white like a lantern under fog. It hovered just above the water, steady at first, then brighter. Then another one appeared beside it. Then a third. "What the hell, is someone out there?" I asked, squinting. Casey shook his head. "Too bright for flashlights, too even. You see any reflections?" I didn't. The lights didn't ripple, didn't distort in the water. They just hung there, perfect circles in perfect stillness. Then, without warning, they began to move, slow, deliberate patterns, shifting and rotating in formation. "What the hell?" Casey muttered. I wanted to say it was a trick of the eye, maybe drones, maybe swamp gas or some meteorological nonsense. But every explanation died in my throat when I realized something. I couldn't hear anything anymore. Not the crickets, not the breeze, not the gentle lapping of the water against the boat. The whole world had gone silent. Casey grabbed my arm. "We're leaving, now!" He yanked the starter cord on the motor, but it sputtered and died. Tried again, nothing. My flashlight flickered and went dark. Even the small LED on my watch was out. I don't know what made me look up, but when I did, I saw them. 3 massive shapes hovering directly over the lake. No sound, no wind, just shadows against the stars. The lights we'd seen on the water were shining from beneath them. Then everything went white. When I opened my eyes, I was lying on the dock. The boat was gone. The lake was calm again, the stars bright overhead. My clothes were damp, my mouth tasted like metal, and my head felt like someone had driven a spike through it. Casey was nowhere in sight. I checked my phone. Dead. My watch said 3:41 a.m. Over 5 hours had passed. I stumbled to my truck, got it started on the 3rd try, and tore back to town. When I got to Casey's house, his truck was still gone. His porch light was on, the door unlocked. Everything inside looked normal, except for Casey's clock. It was stopped at 10:07 p.m., the exact time we'd seen the lights. I sat there until sunrise, hoping he'd drive up. He never did. The sheriff's office launched a search the next day. They found our boat half submerged near the lake's north shore. The motor was melted, literally fused into the hull like it had been hit with a blowtorch. Casey's rod was there, snapped clean in two. No blood, no footprints, no sign of him. They called it an accident. Maybe he fell in, got caught in the current. Except Lake Minerva doesn't have a current. For weeks, I couldn't sleep.
Every night I'd wake up around 3 a.m., gasping, drenched in sweat, with the faint hum of static in my ears. My phone would be dead no matter how much I charged it, and sometimes I'd find the front door unlocked even though I knew I'd locked it. The nightmares were the worst. Bright lights, weightlessness, the feeling of something cold and smooth pressing against my chest. I tried telling people, but the story changed in their retelling. Some said Casey was drinking, some said he ran off to escape debt. Others whispered that I'd lost it, that I'd done something to him. I stopped leaving the house after dark. Then, 3 months later, I got a call from a restricted number. The voice on the other end was faint, distorted by static, but I swear it was him. "Aaron." "Casey, where are you?" "They're not done." The line cut out. I filed a report, but the police said it was probably a prank. The number traced to nothing. Now, every night when the fog rolls over Lake Minerva, I see it again, the faint glow on the water, pulsing in the same slow rhythm as before. I tried recording it once, but the video came out black, the sound replaced by that same low hum that vibrates through my bones. Last week, I found something on my front porch, a small circular object, smooth and metallic, no seams, no markings, warm to the touch. It hums faintly when I hold it close to my ear. I don't know how it got there. Sometimes, late at night, when the power flickers and the sky turns that strange shade of white, I hear something moving outside. Slow footsteps on the dock, the creak of the boards, the faint splash of water against wood. And always, just before the silence swallows everything, a voice. "Aaron, I don't know what they want. I don't know why they took him and left me, but the lights are back over Lake Minerva, and this time, I think they're coming for me."
My name's Eli Barrett, and I live in Marble Creek, Arizona, a quiet desert town about an hour south of Flagstaff. Population 1,200. We've got a diner, a post office, 2 bars, and miles of nothing but red sand and sagebrush. Nights out here are the kind of clear that make the stars look close enough to touch. My dad used to say the desert sky was God's mirror. I don't know if I believe that anymore. That night started ordinary enough. I'd been working a long shift at Barlow's Auto, fixing an old Chevy that smelled like oil and regret. When I finally closed up shop, it was past midnight, and the air had that crisp, electric chill that only happens right before winter hits the desert. My friend Lena Cruz texted me, "Come out to Miller's Bluff, meteor shower tonight." We used to go stargazing there all the time as kids. It's a high ridge overlooking Marble Creek, far enough from the highway that all you can hear is wind and your own thoughts. I almost said no. Too tired, too cold. But something about the idea of stars falling out of the sky felt right. I grabbed a thermos of coffee, hopped in my truck, and drove. Lena was already there when I arrived, bundled in a jacket 2 sizes too big, sitting on the hood of her car. Her dog, a mutt named Bandit, wagged his tail but didn't bark. The air was silent. Too silent. Even the coyotes were quiet that night. "Glad you made it," she said. "You ever notice how bright Orion is this time of year?" I looked up, squinting. She was right. The stars of Orion's belt were blazing, sharper and whiter than usual. Almost too perfect.
We sat there for a while, sipping coffee, talking about nothing. Old teachers, bad music, her plan to leave town. Then Bandit started growling. Not barking. Growling. The hairs on his back stood up, and his ears flattened. Lena frowned. "What is it, boy?" That's when we heard it. A low hum, so deep it vibrated in my chest. It wasn't coming from the ground, it was coming from above. The stars in Orion's belt began to move. At first, I thought my eyes were playing tricks on me, but no, they were shifting, the 3 points of light slowly realigning until they formed a perfect triangle. Then a fourth light appeared, descending from between them, growing brighter, closer, until it wasn't a star at all. "Lena!" I didn't answer. I couldn't. The hum grew louder, shaking the truck, making my bones ache. The light hovered just above the ridge, massive, circular, and impossibly silent now. It shimmered like heat on asphalt, the edges rippling, bending the air around it. I fumbled for my phone to record, but the screen was dead. No light, no signal. Bandit was whining now, pawing at the ground like he was trying to dig himself into it. Then, without warning, the hum stopped. Everything went still. The light brightened, and for a split second I saw them inside it, tall, thin, almost human, but wrong. Their limbs too long, their movements too smooth. One of them raised an arm, and the light flared white-hot. The next thing I knew, I was lying flat on my back in the sand. My head was pounding, my mouth dry, and the sky was normal again. Orion's belt back where it belonged. Lena was gone. Bandit was still there, trembling. I shouted her name until my voice cracked. No answer. Her car was still there, headlights on, door open, keys in the ignition, but no Lena. I checked the ridge, the slope, even the dry creek bed below. Nothing. By dawn, I drove into town and went straight to the sheriff. He looked at me like I was drunk when I told him what happened. "Meteor shower, you said? Maybe she wandered off, got lost." "No," I said. "They took her." "Who's they?" he asked. I didn't have an answer. Search teams combed the desert for 3 days, found tire tracks, some footprints, mine, but nothing else. On the 4th day, they called it off. Official story: she got lost, probably fell into a ravine or got taken by coyotes. But there were no drag marks, no blood, no signs of a struggle. Just her necklace, lying in the sand where we'd been sitting. After that, people started looking at me different. I stopped going out, stopped sleeping. Every night I'd sit on my porch staring up at Orion's belt, and every night it looked brighter, closer. Then, 2 weeks later, I started hearing the hum again. It wasn't outside. It was in my head. Faint at first, like tinnitus, then louder, sharper, pulsing in perfect rhythm with my heartbeat. Sometimes it'd stop for hours, then roaring back when I least expected it. I tried everything: music, medication, even earplugs. Nothing worked. And then, 3 nights ago, I woke up standing barefoot in the desert. No coat, no flashlight, just me and the cold sand under my feet. I was 10 miles from town. I don't remember leaving my house. When I looked up, Orion's belt was wrong again.
The stars were moving, shifting, spiraling like a signal. I swear I saw the same circular light hovering in the distance, and this time it wasn't alone. There were 3 of them, aligned perfectly, glowing white and silent, like eyes watching me. I ran until my lungs burned. When I got back home, there was dirt under my nails and a new scar on my forearm, 3 small dots in a straight line, burned into the skin. They didn't hurt. They just glowed faintly under the moonlight, like embers. I think Lena's still out there. I think they took her. Somewhere we can't follow. Somewhere above us. Because last night, for the first time since that night on the ridge, I heard her voice. Soft, distant, carried on the hum. She said, "Eli, they're not what you think." The sound faded, but the hum didn't stop. It's still there now, low and steady, vibrating through my walls, my chest, my skull. When I look at Orion's belt tonight, the middle star is flickering, like it's signaling. I don't know if it's for me, but I know this much. Whatever is up there isn't done with us. And maybe my dad was right all along. The desert sky isn't God's mirror. It's a window, and the children of Orion are watching from the other side.
You ever tune a radio just right so you hit a station that shouldn't exist? That was how it all started for me. My name's Dylan Reeves, and I work night shifts at KRAM 104.5, a low-budget FM station out of Silverton, Oregon, population 7,000 and some change. We play the usual, classic rock, small-town ads, weather updates that no one listens to. Nothing exciting ever happens here. At least, not until I found frequency 19.2. It was early December, bitter cold, the kind of night where the fog rolls in from the valley and swallows everything. I was the only one on the overnight shift, standard procedure on weekends. The station's on the edge of town, an old concrete building that used to be a radio tower relay back in the 60s. It creaks when the wind hits it just right. You can hear the old vents moan like someone's sighing in the walls. I was sitting in the control booth, half asleep, nursing a cup of burnt coffee while Zeppelin played through the speakers. Routine stuff. But when the record ended, the board lights started flickering. First red, then white, like a short circuit. I thought it was just old wiring, until the backup transmitter, the one we never use, powered on by itself. The display read, frequency 19.2 megahertz. Now, that didn't make sense. We don't broadcast anywhere near that range. It's reserved for military communications, long-wave signals, definitely not for some guy in Oregon spinning records for insomniacs. I tried switching it off, but the system froze. Then the speakers hissed. It started as faint static, soft, rhythmic, almost like breathing. Then came the voice. Dylan. I froze. At first, I thought I was imagining it, but then it came again, low and distorted, layered like someone was speaking through multiple channels at once. Dylan Reeves, do not adjust the signal. I ripped off my headset, heart pounding. The display kept flashing 19.2 megahertz, and the voice continued, clear now, almost mechanical. Frequency breach confirmed. Observation continues. Then the line went dead. I just sat there,
staring at the console, every hair on my body standing on end. Nobody else knew that station's system like I did. That frequency wasn't even listed in our database. I logged the anomaly, shut the transmitter down manually, and went home trying to convince myself it was a prank, bad wiring, a rogue signal, whatever. But the next night, it happened again. Same time, 2:19 a.m. This time, the lights didn't flicker. The air just changed. You ever feel static build up right before lightning hits? It was like that, thick, electric, charged. The smell of ozone filled the booth. Then the speakers crackled, and the voice came back. "Do not interfere. The sequence is in progress." "Who is this?" I said, leaning into the mic, my voice trembling despite myself. Silence. Then a new sound. A low hum, deep and pulsing, like the bass line of a heartbeat played through steel. The walls started to vibrate. I swear I saw the soundboard lights pulse in sync with the rhythm, like the whole room was breathing. "Observation continues," the voice repeated. "Signal integrity compromised. Adjusting frequency." And just like that, it cut off. When I checked the logs the next morning, the transmission didn't exist. No power surge, no recording, no signal traces. It was as if the broadcast never happened. I didn't tell anyone at first. Not my boss, not the tech crew, not even Lena, who ran mornings after me. I figured no one would believe it. Hell, I barely did. But curiosity got the better of me. So the following week, I started digging. 19.2 megahertz. I found out it wasn't just any frequency. It was part of an abandoned government research project, Operation Sentinel, decommissioned sometime in the late 80s. Supposedly, it was used to track long-range radio waves from deep space. The logs I found online, scanned and redacted to hell, mentioned unknown carriers and non-terrestrial modulation. That should have been enough to make me stop, but I kept listening. Over the next few nights, the signal came back, stronger each time. Sometimes I'd hear faint murmurs behind the main voice, like a dozen people whispering through static. Other times, the lights in the booth would dim and the glass would fog up, even though the heater was running full blast. One night, Lena dropped in early for her shift. I didn't hear her come in. I was tuned in, headphones on, the hum louder than ever. When she tapped my shoulder, I jumped so hard I nearly ripped the cables out. She looked at me, pale and wide-eyed. "Dylan, what the hell are you listening to?" I pulled off the headset. "You don't hear it?" She shook her head. "There's nothing playing." But I could still hear it, the hum, faint but steady, even without the headphones. It wasn't just in the room anymore. It was in my head. That was the last night I worked at KRAM. 2 days later, Lena went missing. They found her car on the side of Highway 213, doors open, headlights still on. No footprints, no sign of a struggle, just the radio, tuned to 19.2 megahertz, static, humming softly through the speakers. After that, I left town. I told myself I needed distance, but it doesn't matter. The signal follows me. Now I hear it everywhere, through my phone, through street lights, through the buzz-old fluorescent bulbs. It's always the same pattern. 3 short pulses, 1 long. When I close my eyes, I see flashes, white light, cold metal, figures standing in silhouette.
Sometimes I wake up with blood on my pillow and ringing in my ears that won't stop for hours. I've tried recording it, but nothing ever plays back. I've tried reporting it, but every email I send about frequency 19.2 bounces back undeliverable. And lately, I've started noticing things outside my apartment. People standing under the streetlight across from my window, motionless, even in the rain. Last night, the signal came through louder than ever. My TV turned on by itself, flickering static until the picture resolved into that same text I saw at the station. Frequency breach, confirmed. Observation, complete. Then the voice returned, soft, almost kind this time. Transmission received, Dylan Reeves. Return sequence active. And then nothing. No hum, no static, just silence. Now it's 2:19 a.m. again. The air smells like ozone, and my phone screen just lit up on its own. The signal's back, faint but steady, threading through the walls like a heartbeat. I don't think it's coming from a transmitter anymore. I think it's coming from me. If anyone hears this, if anyone ever tunes in to frequency 19.2, turn it off. Don't listen. Because once you hear it, they find you. And once they find you, they never stop listening.
Hollow Creek, West Virginia, was a forgotten town swallowed by the woods. 15 years gone, I thought I'd escaped it for good. Then the phone rang, and just like that, I was heading home. It was Eddie, my childhood friend. His voice sounded different, tired, shaky, the way people sound when they've seen something they can't explain. He said, "Luke, they're back." I didn't have to ask who they were. I knew. Back when we were 16, Eddie and I saw something out at Miller's Field, just past the old lumber yard. It was late September, a foggy night, and we were out doing what teenage idiots do, drinking cheap beer and trying to spot deer with my dad's flashlight. The air was thick and still, the kind of quiet that feels unnatural. That's when we saw the light. At first, I thought it was a helicopter, bright, low, and white as lightning, but it wasn't moving right. It hovered, totally still, then darted across the sky faster than anything I'd ever seen. It stopped over the field, humming softly, pulsing like it was alive. Then came the sound, a low, droning vibration that rattled my ribs. Eddie dropped his beer, and before I could say anything, the light exploded outward, blinding white, and I blacked out. When I woke up, I was on the ground. My watch said it was 3:14 a.m., 2 hours gone. Eddie was sitting nearby, staring up at the sky, shaking so hard I thought he was seizing. When I asked him what happened, he just said, "They took me up there." He never talked about it again. After that night, things got weird. Eddie stopped going out after dark. He'd flinch at sudden noises, keep his blinds closed. Said he heard the hum in the walls sometimes. People thought he was losing it. I tried to stick around, but Hollow Creek had its own gravity, a darkness that seeps into you if you stay too long. So I left. And now, 15 years later, here I was again, pulling into town with that same uneasy feeling sitting heavy in my chest. Hollow Creek hadn't changed much. Same rusted gas station, same shuttered diner, same smell of rain and pine. The mountains loomed over everything, shadows stretching across the road like claws. Eddie lived in a small cabin off Old Mill Road, right on the edge of the forest.
When I pulled up, his lights were on, and the door was open. "Eddie?" I called out. He stepped out of the kitchen, pale and gaunt like he hadn't slept in days. His hand shook as he set down his coffee. "You shouldn't have come." "Well, nice to see you too," I replied, trying to sound casual, though my heart was already racing. "You called me?" He nodded. Eyes darted toward the window. "Yeah, I didn't think you'd actually show." "Tell me what's going on." He hesitated, then said, "It's happening again. The lights, the sound." I felt a chill crawl up my spine. "You're sure it's not—" "Don't say weather, Luke. I know what I saw." He told me that 2 nights ago, around 2 a.m., he'd been sitting on the porch when he saw them again. 3 lights hovering over the ridge, moving in perfect formation. The same hum filled the air, shaking the windows. Then his power cut out and his phone stopped working. Next thing I know, it's sunrise and I'm out on the field behind my house. No memory of how I got there. I wanted to tell him he was dreaming, but deep down I knew better. My stomach turned, remembering that blinding white light all those years ago. That night I stayed with him, couldn't let him go through it alone. We killed the lights and sat by the window, waiting. The woods outside were pitch black, the kind of dark that feels alive. Crickets stopped chirping around midnight, and the air grew heavy, electric. Then it came. A low hum, faint at first, then rising until it filled the whole room. The glass trembled in the windows, and my skin prickled. Eddie gripped my arm. "They're here," he whispered. Through the trees, a white light flickered, slow, pulsing like a heartbeat. Another one appeared beside it, then a third. They moved together, weaving above the treetops, too smooth to be anything human. I grabbed my phone to record, but the screen went black. Dead battery. The hum grew louder, vibrating through the floorboards, and suddenly everything went white. When I opened my eyes, the light was gone. The hum was gone. The house was still. But Eddie wasn't there. I called the sheriff the next morning. They searched the woods for 3 days, found nothing but a strange circular patch of dead grass behind his cabin, perfectly burned into the ground. They told me he probably wandered off, got lost, maybe fell into the creek. But I know better. I saw it happen. I tried leaving town the next day, but my truck wouldn't start. Not the battery, not the fuel pump, nothing. Every time I'd turn the key, I'd hear the same hum. It's been 5 nights now. I keep hearing it outside, faint but steady, like it's calling to me. Last night, I woke up standing in the field behind Eddie's cabin, barefoot, freezing, staring at the sky. I don't even remember leaving bed. There's something they did to me that night years ago, something they didn't finish, and now they're back to finish it. The lights are back over the ridge again. 3 of them, glowing, pulsing in rhythm with my heartbeat. I can feel the vibration in my bones, hear the hum growing louder, closer. I should run, but I can't. My body won't move. The light's too bright now. Everything's shaking. If anyone finds this, if anyone ever reads it, tell them I went back to Hollow Creek. Tell them they came from me too.
They say sound doesn't travel well through corn, but that's a lie. I know, because I've heard it. The hum that crawls up from the dirt late at night, deep enough to make your teeth ache. My name's Caleb Moore, and I grew up in Grayson, Nebraska, a place surrounded by nothing but cornfields and silence. Folks round here like to joke that the corn listens better than people do. But what they don't say is that sometimes the corn talks back. It started about 3 weeks ago. I've been working the night shift at Wilder Grain Co., loading trucks and fixing the old irrigation pumps that kept half the county running. It's boring work, but I liked it. Quiet, predictable, until the night the ground started humming. I was out by the eastern field, checking a busted pipe. The moon was bright, but the air felt heavy, like it does before a storm. That's when I heard it. A low vibration. Faint at first, then stronger, like something massive was moving underground. The sound didn't just echo, it pressed against me, vibrating through my boots and into my chest. I killed my flashlight and stood still. The hum had a rhythm, almost mechanical, but too smooth to be man-made. It pulsed 3 times, stopped, then started again, steady, deliberate. I remember muttering, "What the hell?" under my breath. Then the corn began to move. Not from the wind. It was dead still that night. The stalks shifted, parting in a slow ripple, like something was crawling just beneath them. I shined my light again, but there was nothing. No animals, no wind, just that damned sound. It lasted maybe 30 seconds before fading away completely. The next morning, I told Earl, my boss, about it. He laughed, said I was working too many graveyard shifts. Sound beneath the cornfield, he chuckled. You've been listening to too many AM stations, boy. Maybe he was right. I tried to brush it off, but the next night, it came back. Louder. I was in my truck, parked near the north fence line, when the vibration started again. My headlights flickered, and the radio cut to static. Then, through the static, a voice, faint, distorted, like it was being played backward. It wasn't English. It wasn't anything. Just this weird pattern of tones and clicks that made my skin crawl. And then it said my name. Caleb. Just like that. I slammed the radio off, jumped out, and stood in the cold, staring out at the endless black waves of corn. The hum was everywhere now, coming from below, from inside the earth. I swear I saw the ground shift, just a little, like something breathing beneath it. The next day I went to see Sheriff Holloway. He's been running Grayson's tiny department since the 90s, a no-nonsense guy who's seen more drunk tractor accidents than he cares to count. I told him everything, about the sound, the voice, the moving ground. He didn't laugh. Instead, he rubbed his chin and said, "You're not the first." Turns out, 3 farmers on the south side of town had reported similar things. Machines losing power, strange noises under the soil, even light seen hovering over the fields at night. They said it started after that freak meteor storm last month. I'd seen it too, flashes in the sky, like shooting stars on overdrive. But NASA said it was debris from an old satellite, nothing to worry about. Right. Sheriff asked me to show him where I heard it, so that night we drove out to the eastern field together. The place looked normal, corn tall and healthy, wind calm. He parked the cruiser by the fence, killed the lights, and we waited. For a while nothing happened, just the occasional rustle of leaves. Then right around midnight, the ground trembled. The hum returned, low, powerful, vibrating through the cruiser's frame. The dashboard lights flickered, and my ears started to ring. "You hear that?" I asked. He nodded, eyes wide. Jesus Christ. The sound rose higher, deeper, until it was no longer just a noise. It was pressure, squeezing the air around us. Then, out in the middle of the cornfield, the ground split. A narrow seam of red light cut through the rows, stretching maybe 50 feet long. The dirt was glowing. Sheriff grabbed his radio. "Dispatch, this is Holloway." Static. The light pulsed, and something, some shape, rose out of the field.
It wasn't solid, not at first, just this shimmering outline like heat distortion. Then it began to take form. Tall, thin, silver-gray skin that shimmered like water under moonlight. No face, no mouth, just two black, glassy eyes that caught the light and threw it back. I couldn't move, couldn't breathe. It wasn't walking, it was gliding, silent, toward the cruiser. "Stay still," the sheriff whispered, hand on his gun. The hum stopped, and in that silence I heard it again. My name. This time, not from the radio, inside my head. Caleb. You saw. Everything went white. When I came to, it was morning. I was lying on the edge of the field, clothes soaked, dirt under my nails. The cruiser was gone. The sheriff was gone. The corn where the light had been flattened in a perfect spiral. The dirt beneath it black and glassy. They found the sheriff's car 30 miles away, engine dead, driver's seat empty. The official report said, "Unexplained disappearance." The field was quarantined by men in hazmat suits a few days later. Said they were testing for chemical leaks. Nobody's allowed out there anymore. But I still hear it every night. The hum beneath my house, faint but steady, like it's moving closer. Last night, my dog started barking at the cornfield behind my property. When I went out, the ground was warm. And then, faintly, through the soil, I heard it again. Caleb. 3 pulses. Stop. 3 pulses. It's a pattern now. A signal. Whatever's under the cornfield isn't done with me. And I think the sheriff's still down there, listening to the sound beneath the dirt.